Weird Nature Facts, Part 42. In September of 2001, thousands of residents reported blood rain falling over the state of Kerala, India. While there are many theories including extraterrestrial origins, scientists are still not certain as to where it came from. Last year, the world's only known pink manta ray was found in the Great Barrier Reef. The diver was so amazed at first that he thought his camera was broken. In 2016, a swarm of 20,000 bees chased a car for 2 days because their queen got stuck inside. Avocados never ripen on the tree, so farmers can use trees as storage and keep avocados fresh for up to 7 months. Shrek the sheep ran away from his owner in 1998 to avoid being sheared. 6 years later, he was found living in a cave with enough wool to produce 20 men's suits. Insane Coincidences, Part 3. Hall of Fame boxer Sugar Ray Robinson once had a dream where he killed his next opponent in the ring. Afraid that his dream was telling him something, he initially backed out of his next fight until a priest convinced him otherwise. He ended up scoring a decisive knockout in the 8th round that resulted in the death of his opponent, Jimmy Doyle. A Russian woman once caught her fiancé cheating on her when she saw him with another woman on Google Street View. In 2015, a man found a Mountain Dew bottle from 1992 that would have won him a brand new Super Nintendo. Jim Springer and Jim Lewis are identical twins who were separated at birth but ended up living nearly identical lives. Both married a woman named Linda, got divorced, and remarried a woman named Betty. They also both had a dog named Toy, drove a Chevy, and smoked Salem cigarettes. All of this was discovered when they were reunited at the age of 39. Morbidly Wholesome, Part 23. Months before his sudden death, Mythbuster Grant Imahara built a fully animatronic Baby Yoda. After spending 3 months of his personal time designing and programming the robot, he intended on bringing it to hospitals to cheer up sick children. William Kyle Carpenter threw himself in front of a grenade in Afghanistan to shield his best friend. He's the youngest living recipient of the Medal of Honor and has progressed incredibly well in his recovery. This bride's father died 10 years ago and his heart was donated. The man who received the transplant ended up walking her down the aisle. In 2010, Gary Richmond was senselessly beaten into a coma and barely made it through emergency surgery. He woke up with no memory of his wife of 20 years but ended up falling in love with her all over again. These are some of the weirdest mutations. British actor with Marfan syndrome, a genetic disorder that affects connective tissue and makes people grow extremely long and thin. His 6'7", 120-pound build has landed him various roles in the genre of horror. A family of people with blue skin lived in Kentucky for many generations. They likely gained their blue skin through a combination of inbreeding and a rare genetic condition. Some people are born with an extra hole in their ear where the cartilage meets the face. It's a condition called preauricular sinus, and many experts believe it may be the evolutionary remnants of gills. These were some of the craziest World War II tactics that actually worked. The Nazis made crooked picture bombs specifically intended for officers. When they were retreating, they left paintings on the walls and skewed them to the side, so when they were straightened, they were rigged to explode. The Ghost Army was created in 1944 as the first tactical deception unit in U.S. Army history. They used inflatable tanks, fake radio traffic, and built phony headquarters to confuse the Nazis. A U.S. naval destroyer once won a battle against a Japanese submarine by throwing potatoes at them, which the Japanese thought were grenades. The Royal Air Force dropped matchbooks into enemy territory containing instructions on how a soldier could fake an illness. Once Nazi command heard of this, they stopped sending their troops home when they said they were sick. Therefore, many genuinely sick troops were sent into combat, resulting in even more disease and death. Morbid Facts, Part 161. Snake wine has been considered a therapeutic alcoholic beverage for thousands of years in China. It is produced by infusing venomous snakes in grain alcohol and is said to reinvigorate a person. This abandoned fawn was found curled up next to a fake deer that was used for target practice. This is a 1964 photo of Black Reverend Joe Carter preparing to face the Klan after he tried to vote. During tests in South Korea, access to all rooftops are typically locked. This is because students have been known to throw themselves off the roof due to the pressure of the exam. In 2005, one sheep decided to jump off a cliff, causing nearly 1,500 others to follow. However, only the first 450 were killed, since the remaining animals' falls were cushioned by the dead bodies below. Here are some times when animals got revenge on humans. In 2015, a man from China drove home one day to find a dog laying in his parking spot. Instead of shooing the dog, he decided to kick him out of the way, an action the dog wouldn't forget. Later that evening, he returned with more dogs who proceeded to bite and vandalize the man's car. In 2007, a San Francisco zoo tigress escaped from her enclosure and attacked 3 men because they were taunting her. After killing one of them, she followed the blood trail of the other 2 men and began mauling them before she was fatally shot by police. In July of 2016, a village in India suffered a series of elephant invasions over a 2-week span. 16 different elephants launched various night attacks and ended up destroying 54 homes. After an investigation was launched, it was found that the attacks began after a member of the elephant's herd was killed by poachers. These are some of the oldest living animals ever recorded. Harriet the Galapagos tortoise was collected by Charles Darwin in 1835 while he was discovering evolution. She died at the age of 175 as a beloved member of Steve Irwin's Australia Zoo. The world's oldest living spider died at the age of 43. Named number 16, she only died after being stung by a wasp. In 2007, a bowhead whale was found with the end of a harpoon stuck in its neck. It was found that the harpoon tip dated back to the year 1890, proving that the bowhead whale is the world's oldest known living mammal. Born in 1751, a koi fish named Hanako reportedly died at the age of 226 in the year 1977. And finally, the Greenland shark is believed to be the oldest living vertebrate species in the world. This specimen is believed to be around 400 years old, meaning it was roaming the depths before the Pilgrims entered America. Morbid Facts, Part 162. Sloths only have enough energy for their weekly toilet trip to the jungle floor. So if their baby ever falls to the ground, they must choose to preserve their energy and leave it to be eaten. A San Francisco man tweeted this just 5 minutes before being the victim of a random drive-by shooting. In 2015, a Colombian man had a tapeworm inside of him that got cancer. The cancer then metastasized and the man eventually died from tumors of tapeworm throughout his entire body. A 24-year-old nurse in India was set on fire by her ex-boyfriend after she rejected his advances. But police say the woman caught hold of him tightly so that he couldn't escape after killing her. While the woman died on the spot, the man suffered for days before succumbing to his injuries during treatment. These are some of the weirdest creatures on Earth that I bet you've never heard of. The raccoon dog is a species related to foxes that's indigenous to East Asia. It is the only species of wild dog that hibernates during the winter. Known as scaly-foot gastropods, volcano snails are a real thing. They have shells made from iron sulfides and are typically found near hydrothermal vents that can reach 750 degrees Fahrenheit. Leoconcha hieroglyphica is a mollusk that received its name because it looks like it's covered in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. The leaf sheep sea slug is often considered to be half plant, half animal. By absorbing chloroplasts from algae, it's the only known animal that can perform photosynthesis. The black swallower is a fish that can swallow food more than 10 times its own mass thanks to its expansive stomach. In 2007, this swallower measuring just 7 inches long was found dead after it tried to digest a 34-inch mackerel. Insane Coincidences, Part 4. An Australian man named Bill Morgan was once declared dead for 14 minutes but somehow survived. To celebrate his survival, he bought some scratch-offs and won a car. When the news asked him to reenact the moment, he bought another scratch-off for the cameras and won a $250K jackpot. This person was saved from a $300 fine thanks to this absolute bro of a bird blocking their license plate from the camera. This same injured whale was photographed 35 years apart off the coast of Mexico. A man named Walter Summerford was struck by lightning 3 times throughout his life. After his death, his grave was also struck. In 2018, a woman from Canada was shot in the chest from point blank. But miraculously, her breast implant deflected the bullet and her only injury was a fractured rib. Morbid Facts, Part 163. This is why saturation diving is one of the highest paying jobs in the world. In 1983, 4 rig workers were working deep in a diving chamber in the North Sea. When one of the men opened a hatch too early, the chamber quickly depressurized and dropped from 9 atmospheres of pressure to 1 in less than a second. All 4 men were killed instantly as the pressure was so explosive that it caused 3 of the divers' blood to flash boil. The 4th diver wasn't any luckier as he was forced through a small opening and violently torn apart. According to the autopsy, all of the organs of his chest were launched out of his body and projected upwards more than 30 feet. All of the men likely died immediately, but the investigators were never the same after discovering such a gruesome scene. Weird Nature Facts, Part 43. A man from Kerala, India set a Guinness World Record by putting 60,000 bees on his face for more than 4 hours. He says bees are his best friends and will only sting him if he treats them improperly. In order to tell whether a female is ready to mate, male giraffes will drink their urine. Sand tiger shark embryos fight to the death in their mother's womb and only the strongest survive. DNA testing revealed that this is due to embryos from different fathers competing to be born. Snails' teeth are the strongest known biological material on the planet. They're stronger than spider silk and can withstand pressure high enough to turn carbon into diamonds. According to a new study, fish eggs can survive and hatch after passing through a duck. This provides one explanation as to how completely isolated bodies of water can become stocked with fish. Morbid Facts, Part 164. Kim Jong-un travels with his own toilet to prevent his excretions from falling into the wrong hands. The waste contains important information about his health status and can't be left behind. In the 1960s, the CIA spent $20 million on a cat equipped with gear to spy on the Soviets. Sadly, the operation was cancelled when the cat was hit and killed by a taxi almost immediately. A 115-year-old woman from Nepal has been smoking at least 1 pack of cigarettes per day since 1920. She claims that smoking has aided in her longevity and that all the doctors who advised her to quit have already died. Insane Coincidences, Part 5. In an episode of Johnny Bravo, there's a poster of a building on fire with the words "Coming Soon." This episode aired in April of 2001, just 5 months before 9/11. Narnia the Two-Faced Cat recently gave birth to 2 kittens of each color. In 1981, a South African astronomer gave a lecture on how death could happen at any time. At the end of the lecture, he popped the peppermint candy into his mouth and promptly choked to death. A man from Washington State found a caterpillar that looks like it has the face of Edgar Allan Poe on its back. These 2 nurses were hired within months of each other to work the same shift at the same Florida hospital. They soon discovered that they were long-lost sisters from Korea who had been separated for nearly 40 years. Here are some famous people who predicted their own deaths. Guitar legend Jimi Hendrix once wrote a song called The Ballad of Jimmy that contained these lyrics. Almost exactly 5 years later to the day, he died of an accidental drug overdose. In 1974, Hall of Famer Pistol Pete Maravich told a reporter, "I don't want to play 10 years in the NBA and then die of a heart attack at age 40. He ended up playing 10 seasons and died of a heart attack in 1988 at the age of 40. Mark Twain was born in 1835, shortly after Halley's Comet was passing by Earth. In 1909, he would later say, "I came in with Halley's Comet in 1835 and I expect to go out with it." He died on the exact day the comet appeared in 1910. The lead singer of Lynyrd Skynyrd would always say that he wouldn't live to 30. Even when he was a child, he would tell his father, "Daddy, that's my limit." Sure enough, when he was 29, Ronnie Van Zant died in a plane crash. Morbid Facts, Part 166. Despite growing up deaf and blind, Helen Keller was a supporter of eugenics. She believed that infants who were born with severe mental or physical disabilities were better off dying. Tobacco companies spend the most money on advertising during the month of January. This is because January is when most people are trying to quit as New Year's resolutions. This is a photo of an Iraqi officer with a fearless expression on his face just moments before being beheaded by an ISIS militant. Male otters have been known to violently rape female otters, baby seals, and other sea creatures. Sadly, this often results in death for the victims since the male otter will sometimes bite and drown them to get his way. Here are some stories of feral children who were raised by animals. In 1986, 3-year-old Oksana Malaya was left outside by her abusive parents, so she walked to a nearby shed that was inhabited by wild dogs. When she was rescued 6 years later, she barked, walked on all fours, and had acquired heightened senses for hearing and smelling. Today she lives in a mental hospital and has the social capabilities of a 5-year-old. A Russian boy named Vanya Yudin was raised in a room surrounded by birds in cages because his mom thought he was a pet. When he was rescued in 2008 at the age of 7, he could only communicate by chirping and flapping his arms. Indian sisters Kamala and Amala were found in a wolf's den in 1920. They ran on all fours, ate nothing but raw meat, and didn't look human. They were deformed at the arms and legs and had no interest in interacting with people. Sadly, they had a hard time adjusting to society and died within 10 years. Morbid Facts, Part 167. Mike Tyson got into his first fight after a bully ripped the head off of one of his pigeons. He said that the pigeon was the first thing that he ever loved and inspired him to become a fighter. There are more Panda Express locations in the world than actual pandas. When people die from Alzheimer's, it's usually because the disease got so bad that they forgot how to swallow or breathe. There's a blue whale who sings at such a high frequency that he's unable to communicate with other whales. Nicknamed 52 Blue, his calls have been heard every year since the 1980s but never receive a response. He's been called the world's loneliest whale. Weird Nature Facts, Part 44. The platypus has no nipples. Instead, milk simply oozes from the mother's skin. In 2019, scientists were baffled when a 36-foot humpback whale was found in the Amazon rainforest. While a few theories have been put forth, wildlife experts are still scratching their heads as to how it got there. This absolute unit of a mountain lion was captured on a trail cam in Alberta, Canada. Despite being the largest mammal in the history of the world, blue whales do not have large buttholes. Instead, they defecate with an anus the size of a grapefruit. When caterpillars go into their chrysalis, they turn into a soupy liquid. However, as a moth or a butterfly, they can still remember their life as a caterpillar. A calf with 3 eyes was recently born in Wales. The vet who took the picture said she'd never seen anything like it before. Morbid Facts, Part 169. After being convicted for the murder of Deborah Reese in 1993, Liddell Lee maintained his innocence for 24 years. Before his execution in 2017, his last words were, "I am an innocent man." Just a few days ago, a different man's DNA was found on the murder weapon. Female ducks are raped so frequently that many species have developed a second decoy vagina through evolution. They can offer it to intruders that they don't want to be impregnated by. Only 1 out of every 1,000 sea turtles born actually make it to adulthood. Fatal familial insomnia is a rare incurable brain disease that progressively destroys your brain's ability to sleep. Eventually you stop sleeping altogether, go completely insane, suffer from seizures, and die from cardiac arrest. These are some paintings that are far more disturbing than they appear. This is a painting of George Bush throwing paper airplanes at 2 Jenga towers that are knocked over. It clearly signifies Bush's involvement in 9/11, but the weirdest part is that it was found in the home of his former friend Jeffrey Epstein. This is a series of paintings by Louis Wayne from the early 1900s. They capture a slow descent into the varying levels of his schizophrenic episodes. Insane Coincidences, Part 6. In August of 2000, the band Dream Theater recorded a live studio album called Live Scenes from New York. The album cover art features the skyline of New York City on fire, and the craziest part is that it was released on September 11, 2001. This 3,000-year-old sculpture of an Egyptian princess looks exactly like Michael Jackson. After a family lost their dog during Hurricane Sandy, they decided to give up and find a new one 2 years later. So they went to the local shelter, and the first animal the counselor showed them was their missing dog. This faulty Five Below sign still says the same thing. In 1974, a mother dying from cancer gave a special ring to her son, but he lost it in a river 2 weeks later. After 39 years passed, a diver found the ring underwater and returned it to the man, who was in the hospital dying from cancer. Weird Nature Facts, Part 45. It's estimated that about 300,000 years ago, 9 different species of human walked the earth. By 10,000 years ago, all of them had been wiped out due to the rise of a new species, Homo sapien. Baby owls have to sleep face down because their heads are too heavy to hold up. Gray Percheron horses are born black and slowly turn white. This is the same stallion over a 12-year span. The Dong Tao chicken, aka the dragon chicken, is an extremely rare breed that only exists in Dong Tao, Vietnam. Oysters produce pearls as a defense mechanism. When a parasite gets stuck in their bodies, they ease the pain by coating it in a substance called nacre. Layer upon layer of this fluid is deposited until a shiny pearl is formed. These are some times when humans were saved by wild animals. In 1996, a 3-year-old boy fell into a gorilla enclosure at Brookfield Zoo in Illinois. As employees were fearing the worst, a young mother gorilla named Binti ran over to the boy and picked him up. To everyone's surprise, she carried him over to the exhibit door so that rescue workers could retrieve him. In the year 2000, a man named Kevin Hines survived a jump from the Golden Gate Bridge but broke his spine on impact. But he was miraculously saved by a wild sea lion who kept him afloat until the Coast Guard could reach him. In 2005, an Ethiopian girl was being beaten by 4 kidnappers when a pride of lions chased them away. They even stayed with her until help arrived. Some experts say the lions may have spared the girl because her crying sounded like the meowing of lion cubs. Others suggest that they were just getting ready to eat her when authorities arrived. These are some of the craziest body modifications that people have received. A man named Adam Curlycale tattooed more than 90% of his body, including his eyeballs. He also dyed all of his hair white in order to look like a photo-negative version of himself. A man named Henry Damon has undergone substantial body modifications to look like Red Skull. He removed his nose and tattooed his entire face red and his eyeballs black. A woman named Pixie Fox has undergone 15 surgeries to look like Jessica Rabbit. She even had 6 of her ribs removed to replicate the cartoon character's tiny waist. After removing his nose, this Brazilian tattoo artist spent $500 to have tusks attached to his teeth. And finally, a Filipino man has undergone 23 surgeries to look like Superman. Doctors urged him to stop after they found out he had been using poisonous fillers to achieve his dream. Close Encounters, Part 1. In 1970, American Captain William Schaffner was on exchange for the Royal Air Force when an unidentified target was detected in his vicinity. The object was picked up on multiple radars over the North Sea as Schaffner was told to investigate. But his mission was apparently a failure since he never returned to base that day, and it was speculated that he must have crashed into the sea. A few months later, his plane was recovered from the seabed and was remarkably intact. Only there was one problem. The plane's canopy was still closed and Captain Schaffner's body was nowhere to be found. A few possible explanations have been proposed, but many people still point to extraterrestrial involvement and a government cover-up. Morbid Facts, Part 171. In 2003, a woman from Texas hit a homeless man with her car and his body became lodged in her windshield. She drove home with him still stuck in the car and repeatedly apologized to the man when he was in her garage. But she never called for help and the man died 2 days later as the woman received 50 years in prison. Dodo birds were very friendly and curious animals since they had no natural predators. And then we came along and killed them all. For animal testing involving dogs, most laboratories use beagles because they're the most forgiving of humans inflicting pain on them. In the 1920s, the federal government poisoned alcohol in an effort to curb consumption during Prohibition. As a result, more than 10,000 Americans died from poisoning by their own government. Weird Crime Facts, Part 34. In 2011, a Swedish man named Richard Handel was arrested for trying to split atoms in his kitchen. He was charged with unauthorized possession of nuclear materials, but said he just wanted to see if it was possible to split atoms at home. Russia's toughest prison uses Caucasian mountain shepherds as guard dogs. They weigh up to 200 pounds and are said to have the stopping power of a .45 caliber gun. In 2013, a man from China was ordered to pay a fine equivalent to $1,600 for a minor offense. In response, he paid in coins, which took a total of 18 employees working full days just to count. A Chicago man once bought a car for $600, registered it in his ex-girlfriend's name, and parked it at O'Hare Airport. The car then accumulated over $100,000 in parking tickets, which the city asked the ex-girlfriend to pay. Morbid Facts, Part 172. After Vincent van Gogh shot himself in the chest with a revolver, he managed to walk home and see 2 doctors. But since neither of them was a surgeon, they couldn't remove the bullet, and they left him alone in his room smoking a pipe. He died the next morning with his brother by his side, who said Vincent's last words were, "The sadness will last forever." A girl who grew up in Auschwitz drew this picture of home while living in a residence for disturbed children. When Elvia Cortez went to feed her cows one morning, 4 men quickly approached her and put a bomb around her neck. They left a tape asking for $7,500 and threatened to set off the bomb if she tried to disarm it. Elvia called the police and a bomb tech showed up later in the day to remove it. A few hours later, the bomb suddenly went off and killed both of them, and the men responsible were never found. Weird Nature Facts, Part 46. Found in Sri Lanka, this male adult elephant was the first scientific record of dwarfism in the wild. He measures at just over 5 feet in height. Believe it or not, but crocodiles are more closely related to birds than they are to lizards. The Zolo is an ancient Aztec dog breed native to Mexico. They were once considered to be guide dogs for dead people entering the underworld. This giant rock in Finland has been resting perfectly on a curved surface for over 8,000 years. Sperm whales are the largest toothed predator on the planet but lack teeth in their upper jaw. Instead, they have tooth pockets that encompass the teeth of their lower jaw. The assassin bug wears the corpses of its prey like a backpack. After stabbing its prey and slurping out the innards, the insect uses the corpses as armor and camouflage. These are the craziest things that were found frozen in amber. Some 99 million years ago, a young dinosaur got its tail stuck in amber, a death trap for a small creature. The sparrow-sized juvenile could have danced in the palm of your hand. This praying mantis has been stuck in this amber sample for about 12 million years. This prehistoric hell ant has been stuck biting its prey for 99 million years. Hell ants are some of the earliest known ants but died out with the dinosaurs at the end of the Cretaceous period. While it looks like it died 5 minutes ago, this gecko has been trapped in amber for about 54 million years. This incredible fossil contains a prehistoric parasite that was trying to escape its host as it was drowning in amber. And finally, this ancient ancestor to spiders is about 100 million years old. It's such a unique specimen that it even has a tail. Weird Crime Facts, Part 35. There's a tree in Pakistan that has been chained and officially arrested since 1898. This happened when a drunk British officer thought the tree was moving toward him, so he ordered a sergeant to arrest it. In 2004, this woman from Georgia tried to use a fake $1 million bill to buy $2,000 worth of products from Walmart. She said she thought the bill was real and expected $998,000 in change. In 2008, an entire beach was stolen from a resort in Jamaica. No arrests were ever made and 500 truckloads of sand remain missing to this day. 34-year-old Vladimir Sankin is facing 15 years in prison after beating a pedophile to death. He did this after learning that children were being lured to the pedophile's house before being given alcohol and forced to strip naked. Here are some of the craziest things that were discovered by accident. In 1965, a Ukrainian farmer dug up the lower jawbone of a mammoth. Further excavations revealed 4 huts that were made completely out of mammoth bones. They're estimated to be around 15,000 years old. This 110 million-year-old nodosaur fossil is so well preserved that many scientists refer to it as a mummy. It was accidentally discovered by miners in Canada who initially thought it was just a weird rock formation. These heart-shaped amethyst geodes were discovered just a few months ago by a mining company in Uruguay. A group of archaeologists discovered this massive claw while digging down in a cave in New Zealand. Turns out it was the 3,300-year-old claw of a moa bird which went extinct centuries ago. Paintings with disturbing backstories, Part 2. This painting was created by Maria Farmer, the first victim to speak out against Jeffrey Epstein. She claims this is an FBI diagram of the circle of connections to Epstein. It features people like the Clintons, Bill Gates, and the Rothschilds, and depicts Ghislaine Maxwell as a bloodthirsty reptile. Artist William Udermolen was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease in 1995. Over the next 5 years, he drew these self-portraits of himself, which displayed the devastating effects of the disease. This was painted by serial killer John Wayne Gacy, aka the Killer Clown, while in prison. It depicts him as Snow White and expresses the strange obsession he had with the 7 dwarves. President FDR was having a portrait painted of himself when he suffered a stroke. He died later that day, and this unfinished portrait captured his final waking moments.